Yeah. Okay, Assalamu alaikum. A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Shortly, we are going to start with our webinar series. Thank you so much for this, ladies and gentlemen. So, without further ado, let's start for our our webinar session for today with the title with the 25 common PhD Viva Voce questions. So for ladies and gentlemen, for Muslim friends, why not we start our sessions with the recite Surah Al-Fatiha. Al-Fatiha. Thank you so much. So today, I feel we have a very outstanding invited speaker with us today, Professor Dr. Ahmad Sazali Hamza. How are you, Prof?
I'm fine, thank you, Dr. Hussein, and also to Dr. Swali.
It's been we have Dr. Swali also from here. So first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm the moderator for these sessions. I'm the chemist, Dr. Hussein bin Hanifa. I'm the moderator, and I'm actually from IPSIS UITM. I'm the coordinator for promotion and marketing. So before really start, I would like to announce to the audience, I feel very honored and very happy to have Prof. Sazali, because for information, Prof. Sazali is also my organic chemistry lecturer. Yes, during degree level. And Prof, don't worry, Alhamdulillah, I get an A for your subject. That's for sure. So, okay, I would like to introduce Prof a bit of CV before we really proceed with the sessions. Yes, we have a very outstanding professor today with Professor Dr. Ahmad Sazali Hamza. A bit on the educations. I will take the master's level first. Graduated from UPM with a master in chemistry, and followed by a PhD in UK, United Kingdom. And the current academic post is definitely we all well known. Prof. Sazali is the rector of a campus UITM Selangor and a senior professor with a grade A and the head of the Center of Technology Institute of the Polymers Technology Institute of Science, a Senate member of UITM, Senate representative to the UITM board, and the chairman for UITM Council professor. It's a very high achievement. And of course, Prof. Sazali been appointed for various editor board. Of course, I will take the latest only. Been as editor board from the synthetic communication Taylor and Francis publication from USA, and also editor board from the Natural Science, Emerging Science journals, and a lot of the editor board being represented by Prof. Sazali. And also Prof. Sazali, I would like to proudly announce that he been attended more than 80 international and local conference. That is through all the career, that is a very high achievement. And he been published and more than 100 papers, international papers with a Q1 and also high impact factor papers. And on top of that, been patents of a few patents, the research, and also have been supervised more than 30 student international and local students for master and PhD level. That I would say that is a short introduction. Definitely, there's a short introduction, because if I want to read through all the CVs, it might take an hour for me, Prof. So I'm really happy, Prof, because today, Prof, are going to share with us. We have a plenty of audience are waiting with us about the common PhD Viva Voce question. Prof, I will pass the session to you. Let's begin. I'm very excited to listen of your talk. Yes, Prof.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hussein, and Dr. Suhaili from Thesis for inviting me this morning. It's a great pleasure to be here talking to our students in UiTM, also perhaps some students from other universities as well. The kind of introduction was quite is an honor for me. I guess basically it's just a job of any academics, you have to be excel in research, teaching, and services. And before that, again, I just want to thank Thesis for inviting me this morning. I was actually the dean of Thesis, I think about 10 years back. Okay, so I know the situation, the problems faced by postgraduate students, especially PhD students. Before I talk more on the topic of this morning's session, perhaps I might just talk a little bit on the PhD program itself, the journey of getting a PhD. So I will share some of the slides that I have prepared. Can you see it clearly?
Yes, Prof. We can see clearly.
Okay. This is the title given to me by Thesis, 25 common PhD Viva Voce questions. Actually, perhaps there are hundreds of questions actually when it comes to PhD. Basically, it depends on the examiners, okay, and also the kind of work that every student has investigated for his or her PhD. I have put the outline of presentation. Basically, I'll talk more on the exam at the end of the lecture. Before that, I talk a little bit on the Viva program itself. Sorry, the program of PhD itself. Then we talk on Viva, the role of examiners, what sort of questions the examiners look for during the Viva session, and then perhaps I can share with you the kind of questions that examiners, being external or internal, will normally ask the students during the Viva. Now, just to recap back, as a PhD student, I think this is very important for all the students and also the supervisors and also for the faculty itself. Basically, to be a successful student, especially PhD, one has to have a good synergy, okay, between the project itself, the supervisor, and also the student. This is important for every student to ensure that the progress of the PhD program will run smoothly, because pursuing a postgraduate education is not an easy task. There's always ups and downs. There's a lot of challenges when it comes to acquiring a PhD degree, and all because this is the difference between postgraduate and undergraduate. For undergraduate program, basically, we consume knowledge. We go into a classroom and the lecture, we listen to lecture by lecturers, and that's it. But when it comes to postgraduate, you are the creator of knowledge. You work in the lab, you have to look for literature, you have to do a lot of readings, etc. So there's a lot of challenges. I think that is the reason why pursuing postgraduate education, especially PhD, is a big task for every one of us, including me. We will have all sorts of problems, perhaps personal, perhaps our relationship with the supervisor, perhaps the project itself, whether the project is viable or not, is it achievable or not, Do we put too many objectives? What about the methodologies that we employ? Is it suitable? Is it relevant? So these are the challenges that we have to face. So my advice to all the PhD students out there, make sure that you have a good synergy, good relationship between you yourself and supervisor, and also look at the project itself. Look at the scope. Is it viable and achievable? So this is important. So I guess for PhD research investigation, perhaps 3 or 4 objectives should be sufficient. Do not put too much objectives in your proposal, because objective has to be achievable, and timely, etc., etc. Okay, so that is basically the first thing that one has to remember about the good synergy, a good relationship between you yourself and your supervisor. Okay, what about the expectations of PhD candidate? Again, this is the important factor that influence our work in the lab or in at home, especially now with pandemic. A lot of things that you have to do. Some couldn't enter the lab, but the thing is, you have to adjust and you have to discuss with your supervisor what needs to be done during this pandemic time. Okay, so basically for a student, perhaps they are getting pressure or expectation from their sponsor, from their contract, from their family, and also the supervisor itself. They do get expectation from the university, from the department, from IPSIS as well, So that's why we talk about graduate on time, etc. But like I said, there is no one formula that fits all the students. So basically, it all depends on your working relation with your supervisor. I think it's important that the supervisor should know that when the student can stop working in the lab and when that he or she can start writing up the thesis. I can talk a few hours on this issue, but I just focus on what has been given to me this morning. I think I have 1 hour, Dr. Hussein, to talk about this PhD question. Okay, now before that, this is very important for all the PhD candidates, PhD students. What are the outcomes? Okay, first will be a quality thesis. This is, I put 3 to 4 years. Perhaps some universities abroad, maybe in Germany, maybe it take longer, 5 years sometimes. But at the end of the day, imagine you work for 3 or 4 years, and then you have to condense all your work within 200 to 300 pages. It's not an easy task. That's why we always have problems when it comes to writing a good thesis. Okay, and then also imagine that English is not our mother tongue, and then that again present another difficulty for all of us as students. It happens to me as well. So I'm not an A student, but like I said, you have to learn somewhere. Okay, this is where when you study your PhD, it's not more on just getting your PhD, it's the experience that counts. What have you become, after 3 years or 4 years working under your supervisor? Okay. The second outcome would be a journal article, if you can publish it within that 3 or 4 years. I know that some areas, particularly biology, micro, or biochemistry, they might take a little bit longer, when it comes to publication. So I guess it depends on the work that you are investigating. Okay. The third would be the oral presentation, perhaps at national or international meetings or conference. Now, this is where students and also the supervisors have the opportunity to share what you have done or what you have investigated, okay, in your PhD. And this is also perhaps the opportunity for you to talk to some senior members of different institutions that can perhaps become your external examiner. So this is where attending conferences is a good way for networking with people, and also you might have or you will listen or hearing comments from the audience about your work, so that one can improve your research. The fourth would be meeting, arguing, and impressing professional researchers. This is one of the important outcome of a PhD student. Perhaps with the PhD, you can talk with your colleagues, your friends, or other members doing the same research. This is where the 3 or 4 years that you have spent as a student can be fruitful to your discussion with your friends from different from different universities. Okay. The fifth is the experience that I talked earlier. Getting a PhD, basically, you know about the process of learning, evaluating, or meeting with fellow friends and colleagues. This is the experience that I think you should cherish once you leave the university after you got your PhD. So that's why in any university, one of the mission of a university is that the university provide a good learning experience for students. So this is very important for all of us, including myself, including all the supervisors. This is where you can get to know about your students, the way that you communicate with them, the way that you support them when they have any difficulties, etc. Okay, and the sixth, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The sixth will be benefit to you in the sense that once you have a PhD, you have a license to conduct research, and this is where you can perhaps write a proposal, helping your colleagues or university that you join, because at this stage, I guess, with a PhD, you can apply for grants, etc., etc. And last but not least is to get a good job once you have your PhD. I think that would be the normal outcomes of any PhD students. Okay. Is the time okay, Dr. Hussein?
Yes, Prof. Don't worry. The entire session is yours. You don't worry.
Okay. Okay. Let's talk about some bad stories about Viva first. Okay. I think I just have to put this so that make us aware what's happening during Viva. Like I said, there is no one straight formula for all the students. It all depends on the examiners, depends on the internal examiner, depends on the kind of mood during the Viva. Okay. For example, I've chaired one Viva session before. Sometimes it would drag on, started in the morning, continue in the afternoon. But I guess it depends on the examiners. Perhaps they are very much interested, or perhaps some of the conclusions or the argument in the thesis is being questioned by them. That's why I think students must be aware. Anything can happen. Okay. Also, there are some cases whereby there are aggressive examiners. Okay. Anyway, perhaps they just want to test us. So this is a type of examiners that perhaps you will face. Okay. And also sometimes as a student, we tend to have this blank mind syndrome. We forgot everything. That's why you have to be prepared during Viva. Okay, if the Viva is in the morning, make sure you have a good breakfast. Be calm, you know, don't get panic. Okay, I guess panicking is okay, but don't over panic. You know that this is just an oral examination. It will happen. And of course, that's not what I meant. The things that sometimes we misunderstood the questions that being asked. But nevertheless, as a student, I'm sure that all examiners, being external or internal, are there to help you. I think this is very important for the students, and I'm sure this is also the responsibility of the supervisor, that the thesis is ready to go. That's what they say, the term is. Okay, just quickly, I think Prof. Wong has talked about this, right? About Viva. Anyway, it's just it's an examination conducted by word of mouth. Okay, that's it. So basically, for the student, if you like, when you print your thesis, at the bind, at the spine of the thesis, you have your name engraved there. Am I right? So basically, what you have written in the thesis is all yours. That is why the first thing that the examiners will ask is that whether you understand, okay, whether you can defend your thesis, because every words, every single sentence will be questioned if the examiner, whether it's external or internal, wants to ask. So basically, there is no so-called straight formula, what to ask. It depends on the examiners at that time. Okay. So basically, the purpose is whether you can justify, explain in detail what you have written. Okay, this is talk about originality, or in most Viva, the examiners will ask, what is the novelty of your work? So those are the words that they're going to ask. So basically, this is very important for all the students when you face Viva later on. Make sure the important aspect of novelty or originality of your work. So this is the key question that will be asked. So that's why a lot of readings is helpful. So I said, basically, make sure that you understand line by line what you have written. So I guess reading, and reading. At least that is, you have to read at least 4 or 5 times. The things that you are not sure of, make sure you highlight it so that whatever the questions are asked on that particular area, you will be able to answer it. Okay. Oral examination is basically, like I said, whether it is your own work, okay, whether you understand what you did, and of course whether it's worth getting your PhD. So again, this is the questions that normally will be asked, okay, by the examiners. Now, examiners basically in UiTM, you have 2 external examiners, one from Malaysia and one from abroad, and also we have 1 internal examiner. Okay, it depends on the university. Some universities only have 1 external and 1 internal. Okay. Now remember when I told you that one of the learning outcome of PhD student is to attend conferences. So this is where, if you have a good rapport or good networking with a professor or any academic during the meeting or during the symposium or seminar, so perhaps this is where you can approach, or your supervisor can approach that person, whether he or she is relevant to become the external examiner. Because you have to understand the person that you want to appoint as the external examiner. You want to know his or her track record, whether he's a tough guy or not. I remember during my time, Dr. Hussein, my supervisor asked me two questions. Do you want external examiner from Cambridge or from Nottingham? So I told him, well, what's the benefit of both? He said, both are okay. By the way, I took the one from Nottingham because the one from Cambridge, the one from Cambridge was a top guy, Steve Lay. He's a famous professor from Cambridge. Okay.
If my examiner is Prof. Sazali, will make me more panic, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Like I said, external examiner usually comes from different institutions. Okay, nominated by JCAPS or postgraduate committee at faculty level, perhaps can be proposed by your supervisor. Okay, and also sometimes the student can propose also name, provided that the supervisor agrees or not. Okay, and then you have one internal examiner from UiTM who will look at the perhaps after the Viva, perhaps he or she will look at the thesis again, the corrections have been made, etc. Okay, role of examiners, basically they will look at the quality of the work itself. So I guess this is very important for all the students and also the supervisors, because they are there to help you, okay, to help the candidate, whether the work that has been investigated is up to the standard or the quality, especially in that particular area of research. Okay, so I guess examiners are there to help the students, and also the supervisor itself, whether any improvements or any comments or any suggestions that can be made to the project itself. Okay. Now, type of examiners. Okay, again, there is no so-called one track examiner. Okay, it depends on the examiner itself, the person itself. Okay, some can be very detailed. Okay, basically they will go page by page. The more experienced one basically can just browse through the results and discussion, and from there they can pick up the points that are missing or that can be improved. Okay, and of course there are some who are very friendly and perhaps interested in the work. Okay, so this is will make you feel, students especially, at ease about what you're going to say. Remember, a Viva is the opportunity for you to present to the examiner all the important findings. Okay, it's not so much on presenting the data, it's what have you achieved, what can you conclude, okay, what are the contribution. So those are the things that that will allow the students basically to present his or her work to the examiners. Okay, and of course there are some examiners that will challenge your argument. I guess this is more applicable to students pursuing a PhD in law, perhaps. Okay, basically you have to argue, okay, with the examiner. I think there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you have the facts from your readings. Okay, let's go to the topic this morning. Basically, questions can be grouped into 4. First is, what is all about your work? What did you do? Perhaps the methodology. What did you find out? Perhaps the results and discussion. And also, why does that matter? Okay, so these are basically in our mind as a student. You should have this lingering. These are the kind of areas that they're going to ask, especially the external examiner. Okay. Now, if you look at the the contents of your thesis. There'll be introduction, there'll be literature review, scope of research, objectives of research, research methodology, analysis, finding, discussion, conclusion, implication, and also future work. So questions can come from those areas. Okay, perhaps they will go from literature review to scope of research, but like I said, examiners can just pick up any of those areas that they want to ask. So that's why I said earlier, it is important for all students to read, reread, read as many as possible. You know, for let's say you know that your Viva is, say, in September. I think the whole of, let's say, in beginning of September. So basically you have, this is July, let's say you have month of August. August, basically you have to read your thesis, make sure you understand it really well, line by line. Okay, so that whatever question being asked, you can answer it easily. But don't forget, there are examiners who will ask questions, they are not related to your work. This is important as well. Perhaps they will look at your general knowledge of your work. Perhaps they will ask you about any new discoveries or any new literature being reported by any researchers, you know, throughout the world. So these are the things that, like I said, I don't have any specific rules for questions. It's just that the questions, basically, it depends on the examiners, okay? But again, I think more than 90% will come from your thesis, of course. But like I said, be prepared with your other knowledge as well, particularly in your field of research. Okay, what do examiners look for? Basically, clear statement of research problem. Why you want to pursue this research? Okay, this is important because from this you will come up with your own, things like your own methodology, etc. And then, like I said, originality. Is it your own work? Okay, perhaps sometimes. Nowadays, sometimes we do have to send our samples, to other institutions so that they can do some, I don't know, testing or biological activity. So that has to be clear during the Viva session or during the presentation of your work to the examiners at the beginning of the Viva. Okay, and then good knowledge of relevant literature. When you write the literature review, it's not simply reporting what people have done. Is you have to pick up what are the key aspects of that particular work. So this can be found from the abstract of the journal. So I sometimes look at the thesis, sometimes the students, basically they are just reporting what people have done. I think it's not that. You have to pick up what are the key points of that particular literature. What have they done? Is it something different from a different perspective, etc. Okay. And then of course the examiners will look at the understanding of your work, what you have done. Okay. And of course, as a PhD student, I said in the beginning, once you have a PhD, you have a license to do research. So this is where perhaps they will ask, once you have completed your PhD, let's say you get your PhD, what will you do next? Is there any possibility of pursuing other areas from this kind of research investigation? Okay, again, I mentioned earlier, from the methodology, a lot of things can be asked. Okay, analysis of data, why you choose that particular methods, etc. And of course, look at the conclusion, future research. What sort of conclusions can you derive you made from this work? Imagine you have spent almost 3 years or 4 years in the lab, or doing research. So what would be the conclusions from your work? Or perhaps is there a possibility of continuing this kind of investigation? If you say that it is half-baked and a lot has to be done, So these are the things that you have to answer when you're being asked by the examiners. Okay. Okay. Usually, for me, as an external examiner, I will start with general question first. Okay. So, for example, I will ask why you want to pursue your PhD. Is it because being forced by your spouse or whatever? Okay, and perhaps I will ask, can you summarize the main points of your thesis? Okay, and also can you summarize in one sentence what you have done? You know, sometimes we do have a. Remember, we have a pitching contest. Remember, Dr. said, they have to talk for what, 3 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yes, 3 minutes, Prof.
Yeah, 3 minutes. So those are the things that can be asked during your Viva. You know, those are. You know, can you summarize your work within 3 minutes, for example? You know, and of course they will ask who are the key people in your research investigation, and who what kind of references do you refer most? Okay, so these are the things. Again, this is where I talked earlier that you can meet these people during the conference. If you attended any international conference, being a webinar or or face to face, so this is opportunity for you to talk about the people that has influenced your work. And of course, I talk about the originality of your research or the novelty. Okay, this is a kind of question that will be normally asked by the examiners for PhD candidate. So let's talk about originality a little bit. Just a brief introduction. I think the slides we leave it to Ipsis. You can share it with the students later on. Okay. So originality basically is all about you giving a new information, okay, new knowledge being created. So this is important. So if they ask you what is the novelty of your work, you have to answer that within one sentence or two sentences. So because you have to understand that the work itself, has it been done before, or it has been done before but with a different approach. Now you're going to use a different approaches or different approach. Okay, so this is kind of you need to explain to the examiner what have you done, because if you can answer that this is the originality of my work, then perhaps the examiner will ask again. So this is where you can publish your work in any journals. If you do a good or in-depth investigation, perhaps you can send it to a good quality journal, Q1 or Q2. Okay, so this is again, like I said, make sure that how are you going to answer when these questions are being asked by examiners. Could be from external especially or internal. So make sure that which part of your research investigation are new. Okay, so like I said, everybody should know their own novelty based on the first slides that I showed. There is synergy between the project itself, the student, and also the supervisor. I think this is where the supervisor will guide you that, look, we are looking at this issue and no one has done that before. It doesn't matter being a social science or engineering or science, So this is very important for the students, okay? Now, some general questions they will ask, who has the strongest influence in the development of research area, for example? Okay, what are 3 most important papers? Maybe 3 or 2, okay, depends, okay. What published work is closest to yours? Okay, again, these are questions that can be asked. And then how is your work different from those published closest to yours? Again, this is again look at the novelty of your work. Okay, so make sure that now I think There's already more than 20 questions, I think. Dr. Hussein, nevertheless, just browse through the question, and then, like I said, make sure you understand your thesis and all what you have written. Okay, again, there's a lot of general questions that can be asked. You know, the last one will be interesting. How did doing this research change you as a researcher? So perhaps after 3 years of, you know, working in the lab or in the computer room, you know, you become a better person. You know, you can analyze things more clearly now. Okay, you can argue with your supervisor. I think my advice is that sometimes it's good to argue with your supervisor. You know, I say sometimes. You know, especially because again, it all depends on your supervisor actually. Okay, but for me, I remember during my PhD time, we have always a weekly group meeting, you know. So group meeting is where you can argue with anyone, including your supervisor, because you are doing the experiment, you know. If you think that your method is, you know, is better than the one reported, so be it, you know. But you have to provide evidence, you know. So this is where I think as a PhD student, once you got your PhD, you become a better person in terms of judging, arguing, you know, analyzing, you know, making remarks, etc. You know, so this is important kind of questions that we ask, you know, by the examiner, and then also were there any surprises along the way? These are things that try to make you at ease, you know, when it comes to a general question posed by the examiners. Okay, as for specific questions, this is where perhaps the examiner or the, you know, will ask in detail, you know, to the what being written in your thesis. I think I've shown this earlier. You know, you have a literature review, methodology, etc. Okay, for example, the methodology that you have employed, you know, what are the pros and cons, you know. If you are given, let's say, a chance to turn back the clock, will you use the same methodology, or perhaps you have a different idea now, you know, that you think is more relevant? So this is where you have to answer sincerely, you know. The methods that you have used, is it okay, or is it you know, can be improved? So these are some of the specific questions I think especially the examiner will ask. Okay, and of course, which aspects of your research are you looking forward to being published? Those will come from the, I mentioned earlier, the originality of your work. Okay, so they will pick up on that. And of course, many types of again questions can be asked. Okay, about the your approach to your research. Okay, for example, the scope of research. Let's say in Malaysia, let's say perhaps they will ask, why do you confine to Klang area only? Why not throughout Malaysia or throughout Selangor? So these are the arguments or the questions that you must be aware, you know, that can be asked, okay, from your examiners. I think I have another 15 minutes before we go to Q&A. Dr.
Yep. Yeah, you proceed.
Okay. Again, these are again areas related to your methods, you know, your analysis. Okay. Again, a lot of questions can be asked from those. So remember, I think as a rough guide for PhD, the student has to present for what, 15 minutes, 20 minutes,
Around 20 minutes.
Around 20 minutes, and then they have Q&A. Yes. I think most Q&A will last from, I don't know, perhaps 2 to 3 hours, usually.
Usually.
Yeah, usually. And like I say, depends on the the work that you've done depends on the type of examiners.
Yes.
Okay, perhaps I mentioned earlier, if for example, the student has managed to publish a few papers, that I think will shorten the time of Viva. I have one experience chairing one Viva session whereby the students managed to publish, I think, 3 papers from her research investigation. So the fact that when the papers have been published, it means that the work has been reviewed by the journal's, reviewer. So basically, the work has been acknowledged to be of a good quality. So during the Viva, I think the examiner basically said that not much to ask, except for those general questions, So those are the things that that will determine the kind of questions that will be asked, But like I said, it's not easy to get 3 or 4 papers published within that 3 years. It depends on the field, again, like I said. But if you can publish or you have submitted, for example, let's say you have published 1 and you have submitted another 2, I think that will so-called relay the message to the examiners that, look, you have done a great job as a PhD student, So I guess that will help the kind of questions that will be asked by the examiners. Okay. Now, what you need to prove as a PhD candidate, okay? So basically, the thesis that you have written, okay, makes a distinct contribution to knowledge and evidence of originality. So those are the important aspect of Viva, because the thesis actually belongs to you. The name of the thesis is actually you as a student, not your supervisor. Your supervisor, the name is inside in the acknowledgement. Okay, so basically, you have written to me like a novel, 200 pages, 200 or 300 pages of what you have done for the past 3 or 4 years. So basically, when you look at when the audience or when the examiner read the thesis, basically he or she will understand that, look, the student has done something that worth, giving a PhD. So this is very important to the examiner as well. So that's why I said, make sure that you emphasize more on the contribution that your work has given to the research committee, especially in your area. Okay, some guidance for you during Viva. Okay, first of all, take time to answer questions. Don't panic. Okay, speak clearly and look at the examiners. Don't look at your thesis. You have to be confident. That's why it is better that the thesis is basically all being saved in your brain. Okay, and of course you can ask the examiner if you're not sure about the question. Okay, and if you have time, you can write down the question, or you can record it nowadays. Okay, so that you don't forget it. Okay, and the fifth one is that if you can't answer the question, it's okay. I think the examiners, we don't expect students to know everything. Even the examiners, we don't know. We don't know everything as well. So that's why we have to understand that this is just like a Q&A kind of thing. If you can answer it, fine. Don't try to manipulate things that you are not sure of. Okay. And then talk about your thesis, refer to your work, and of course, always smile and keep calm. Okay. So that's why before the Viva, make sure you have a good, healthy breakfast if it's in the morning. Okay. After the Viva, make sure that this is very important again. What correction has to be made? Okay. Get proper clarification, especially from the external examiners, if you are not sure of what you have to do. Okay, and then discuss with your supervisor. Okay, and then usually if you are given a minor correction, usually the external examiner will leave it to the internal examiner, okay, to look at the thesis again. So that's why time management is very important. If you are given 3 months or 6 months, make sure that you will able to, to complete it, the corrections within that stipulated time. And of course, after that, you can relax and celebrate. Okay. Okay. In summary, so the Viva is especially, is an opportunity for you as a student to discuss your work with an expert, which is the examiner, especially the external examiner, okay, to improve your arguments and thesis, okay. So perhaps once you have submitted your thesis, suddenly you discover that there are some mistakes, that you realize it. So this can be corrected during the Viva, okay. So you can mention it during the Viva, saying that on page, etc., I made a mistakes that that's not supposed to be there, okay. And of course, Viva is also an opportunity for students, to consider where to publish, perhaps with the help of the external examiner. I think this is again questions that will be asked by examiners, about the possibility of publishing part of the work in any particular journal, okay. But again, remember, Viva is still an examination, okay. Bits of wisdoms or reference. I think I give this to the IPSIS later on, okay. And this is a poem that I always read. Okay, basically, look at the one in red. It says there, 2 roads diverge in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So I hope students will understand that. Sometimes, when you have 2 roads diverge, you can take the easy one, or you can take the unknown one. Okay, perhaps the unknown one, more challenges, okay, more obstacles, okay, but at the end of the day, you become a better person. So that's why talk to your supervisor, make sure that the journey of that you're gonna travel as a PhD student, I know can be very challenging, like I said earlier, ups and downs. It's okay to have that, because from those challenges, from those setbacks, drawbacks, etc., perhaps you will become a better researcher, after that 3 or 4 years. Okay. Thank you. And then I have here. This is okay. Okay, these are, I told you earlier, there are more than, 90 questions, or maybe more than 100, So again, I will leave this to IPSIS so that they can share it with the students. I guess that's all, Dr. Hussein, from me. Perhaps I can take a few questions if there are any.
I think, thank you so much for the very interesting presentation, Prof. I'm really enjoying, especially during the session, they are putting the questions. I actually tried to answer myself, and like, what is your novelty? I tried to, okay, my thesis fulfilled the requirement that be highlighted by Prof. Sazali. I'm happy about it. I'm really happy with it. So, of course, Prof, we will open the session for the Q&A. So let me, I'm sure I will share my screen for the Q&A sessions as well. Okay, Dr. Swali, any questions from the audience? Yes, for the audience, please, you can put it. This is a time, might take the good opportunity to ask the questions with our Prof. Sazali is over here. I think He is the master of the PhD questions, and he's a well-known researcher from UiTM and in fact in Malaysia as well. So please take the opportunity to ask the questions. So we are still waiting for the question. So, Prof, meanwhile waiting for the question, I might ask you a simple question, maybe, Prof. If let's say the student really stuck during the Viva session, or if let's say the question being asked is beyond the level, or maybe not in the scope of the PhD. So, this kind of how should the student handle this kind of questions, Prof?
I guess you can say to the examiner that I will try to answer. Yeah, I think that's the best way of addressing it. Perhaps can I give a try to answer this question? Because you can always say that politely that you're not sure about the answer. I think it's okay to give opinions, because as a PhD student, when you become, I mentioned the outcome of a PhD student, you should become an independent researcher just now, right? So basically, independent researcher is basically you can think, or you can, you can provide answers, although you are not really sure about that particular subject. You can, I think, based from your experience of doing a PhD, from the analysis, from your findings, from conclusion, I guess you will be able to, to answer a little bit. I think it's okay if you cannot answer any question that being asked. I remember during my time, Viva, Professor Clark from Nottingham asked me one question which I couldn't answer, but he told me it's okay. He said, I don't expect you to answer that, But he wants to know what can we provide, as a person, as an individual, because he would say that after 3 years of working in the laboratory, that in my case, whatever questions that being asked, particularly related to the field of chemistry. At that time, it wasn't the organic chemistry itself. It was something less, But like I said, perhaps I have to do more readings on that, So these are the things that they will want you to. Actually, it's just that the examiner wants you to say something, about what's in your head actually. Yeah. Don't worry if you can't answer, some of the questions.
Okay, Prof. Thank you. Okay. I think, Prof, that's actually from the question by one of the audience as well. They're asking, cannot answer the question. So I think basically we Prof have answer. Maybe we can have a look the screen. There is more questions. Okay, maybe I'll take one of the question from the audience as well. What will happen if a student did not or her work perfectly but was unable to answer all the questions due to the nervous or anything similar? I think this is again from nervous, especially if my panel, external panel is you, definitely I will get panic and I start to forget about all my research work. So how to counter back this one, Prof?
I guess you have to be you have to control yourself before the Bible. I know nervous, butterfly in your stomach, those are the things that will happen to everyone, But like I said, usually the examiner will that's why they will start with some general question first. The general question will make you at ease. We'll ask about, if I'm the examiner, as an examiner, I will ask about your family first, about your siblings, about your work, what you're going to do. So make sure that the questions being asked, it has to be gradually, in difficulty. I mean, don't straight away ask about, about, for example, I think your method is wrong. I mean, that's not proper. But I understand that. I think it's also the role of examiners is very important as well. The art of questioning, to postgraduate students is important. That's why, as an examiner, for example, in any academic, I think one has to understand that first, you are there to help the students. I think if all the examiners are clear about this, then I'm sure that the students will be at ease, you know. They shouldn't be frightened of Viva. No, it's not proper to do that. Okay, if I'm the examiner, I will ask some questions, we'll make them at ease first. Then perhaps we'll ask them, I mean, there's no point of, you know, giving a question or asking questions which are, you know, trying to make the students suffer, because no, I think that's not proper, you know. I think the role of examiner is to help the students more, and also the university when it comes to, because, you know, getting PhD is a privilege, you know, by any students. I think it's important that the amount of work they spend 3 or 4 years cannot be jeopardized just because he or she has the feelings of nervousness, you know. So this is where the role as examiner and also the chairman of the Viva is important. If the student think that they want to go to the washroom, perhaps they are allowed to do that. So I will allow students to do that. If I'm the external examiner, you know, perhaps you know, you can have a coffee or tea, you know, first. You know, those are the things that will make the students at ease. You know, I guess if all the examiners understand that their role or their job basically is, you know, to help the students, help in the sense that you can ask questions related to the work, but you have to ask it wisely. You know, make it like kind of positive kind of impact on the questions being asked. Okay.
Yeah, Prof. Thank you.
Next.
I think there's questions they're asking about, Prof. Do we need to include latest literature review in our Viva slides pertaining to our research? This is about the Viva, yeah. Literature review.
Okay. I think let's say you have submitted your thesis, say 3 months before, right? And then after that, during that time, suddenly you found out there is a new information, you know, crop up in the literature about your area of research. I guess it's okay to put in the slides during your Viva, so that the examiners are aware that you understand the current situation or the current you know, information that being available. So I guess it's okay to do that. And perhaps you can also highlight the mistakes that you have made when you submitted your thesis. I mentioned this earlier. So Viva, when you present your slides and 20-minute slot, so perhaps it's an opportunity for you to correct with the examiners that the mistakes that you have done in your thesis. I think it happens to quite a number of students. I think it's okay. We understand that. That's why during the Viva, actually the examiners has already given whether it's a minor or major correction. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say the examiner initially put major correction, but after the Viva, the examiner can change it to minor correction, because you have done all the corrections that have been detected from the thesis. This is quite common. Okay, that's why Viva is an opportunity for the students to correct or to relay back the mistakes they made when they wrote the thesis. So I guess this happens before, and I checked one session, and then initially they gave a major, then after the Viva, they changed it to minor, because they say, oh, this has been explained during the Viva, and also the students have the capability of answering the questions that they want to ask. So that's why Viva is very important for students, you know, to interact with the external examiners, internal and external. Okay.
And maybe, Prof, I think this question is, I think it is similar to how to attempt a tough Viva question diplomatically.
How to attempt tough Viva questions, No, I guess you have to keep cool, you know, during the Viva. And also, like I said, this is again the role of the examiners themselves, you know. you can have a good argument, but like I said, make sure that one understand the role of examiners, the role of students. Don't be to be rude. You have to be you have to relax, basically. Because to me, if the Viva session is more like if it is a session whereby one can share our knowledge, I mean, I think it's a good opportunity for both the examiner and the student. Again, Viva is also an opportunity for examiners to learn from the students. I think this is what being lacking from I don't know, not all examiners. I think for me, if I'm the examiner, I want to know about the work that the student has done, the problems that they have faced, the challenges. Sometimes they don't have certain equipments in their university. They have to send it abroad. Sometimes the samples got lost. Those are the challenges I think that examiners should understand. About the work being conducted by the student. So diplomacy again important, but like I said, it would be better if the Viva session is a kind of lively session of knowledge being, shared by both sides, both examiners and also by the students. Okay.
Okay, Prof. There is one question over here, Prof. Now the Viva is conducted online. Do you think this will be an advantage? Online Viva session, Prof. And the Q&A, everything's been online. Yeah.
I guess it depends on the field of investigation. For our case, Dr. Hussein,
yeah,
in terms of chemistry, it's quite tough if you want to ask the students to write the mechanism.
Yes.
During the Viva.
Exactly.
Also mathematics, perhaps some physics or engineering, Perhaps for some areas it'll be okay. I guess it'll be tough on the student and also the examiners when it comes to Viva online. Okay. But again, this is something that we can't avoid. Preferably Viva should be face-to-face, be the best.
Yes.
Whereby you can see the for example, the questions that you want them to really understand. For example, especially in chemistry, the mechanism, those kind of things. I guess it depends on the area of research, Dr. Hussein.
Yeah, definitely, Prof. Okay, especially I think we are from the chemistry field. It will be very difficult, especially from Prof. You are doing organic synthesis and asked to draw all the molecular structure. It's going to take. Yeah. Okay, Prof. There is a next question. Do the candidate need to be too defensive or need to be humble to take the criticisms during the Viva Voce, the Viva session? It's a kind of dilemma when I always write. Syndrome will happen. This syndrome will happen to the either candidate or panels during the session.
But like I said, this is again, it depends on the examiner themselves. What kind of a person they are. Perhaps your supervisor can help the issue of the examiners, the personality of the examiner, beforehand. Perhaps if students that have gone through with this examiner, what kind of person he or she might be. Like I said, I don't have any one straight formula for that. It's just that as a student, we accept criticism from the examiner about our work. Perhaps we can be more polite. Perhaps we can say that, okay, I look into that. Perhaps in the future, I will try use this method, perhaps over that method. Things like that. So remember, this is an examination. Examination. We as student, we have to behave as a student. Don't start to throw files at the examiner. Okay.
Okay, okay, I do understand. I really get your point, Prof. Prof, maybe one question. This one from Moma Zaims. He's asking about what will happen to the student thesis or about the novelty if there are many journals published by other researchers that are similar to his or her thesis novelty in 1 to 2 years before the Viva was the Viva session. I mean, during maybe he started with something new, but during that sessions, a lot of publication are similar work. So it means the novelty is an issue during the Viva. That's why I do understand. So how to encounter this kind of problem, Prof?
Well, like I said, perhaps during the Viva itself, during the presentation, you know, you can highlight those. I guess this is because of delay in Viva after 2 years. Is that?
No, maybe he started some research and other researcher also, Prof, maybe already started similar project. So end up they have a similar finding or other research they found in other country maybe. So maybe the examiner questioned them. Maybe this is the possibility, Prof.
Okay. So basically, when the project being investigated, suddenly another group is working on that. Perhaps the supervisor should advise, you know, at that time of of the investigation that, look, someone is working similar with us. Is it something like that?
Yeah. Yes, Prof. Yes,
So
Prof.
there'll be a so-called a race of getting published earlier, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. But like I said, I guess this is again the role of the supervisor concerned, you know, and I don't think it's the fault of the students when it comes to things like this. Perhaps along the way, if you think that if you found that someone is working on that particular area, perhaps you can adjust it, you know, with your supervisor, you know, because it's going to be difficult, or if you have two people working in the same area from different universities, you know. So that's why it's important to attend conferences, meetings, you know, get to know a lot of people in your area, what sort of investigation other groups are working on, you know. So you have to have a good networking when it comes to research. You cannot work in silo, you cannot work alone, you know. So you need to get those, and then I guess it's the job of the supervisor to advise the students, saying that, look, one group from University Malaya is working again on the same, you know, area. So basically, you know, if you have communicate with them, perhaps they will say that, okay, perhaps we can split the, you know, the area of concern. We'll do this, and others will do that, you know, things like that. But if, for example, you can't avoid that, basically you just have to inform the examiners if that really happens to you. You know, I feel sorry for you. I mean, you know.
Okay, Prof. So I get the concept, Prof. Through all your career, I'm sure you have go through a lot of Viva session and been chair for the Viva session. Is there any student be accepted the thesis without any corrections at the moment?
At the moment, I think I've read about, I don't know, 30 theses. There'll be a minor correction, basically. Maybe some typo error or some grammatical error, yeah.
Yeah, why I'm asking this question is one of the I think audience, they do ask about how to get the distinctions compared to the other candidate different from those passed with the minor and major corrections. So maybe this person want to be outstanding compared to other students during the sessions.
Quite tough to answer. So I guess let's say, for example, the student has published, again, I mentioned earlier, right? Let's say student has published, say, 3 or 4 papers. Okay, the journal is not that thick, you know. I think in UK, PhD thesis is about 130 pages. My case is about 140, you know. So basically, if you write the thesis properly, correctly, and then send it being checked by the you know, by the language unit, for example, perhaps you can get, you know, without any correction. But from my experience, None so far. I always give at least a minor correction. You know. I gave one well, I didn't fail someone. I just gave him a major correction because that person made so-called fundamental flaws in his findings. So I told him that you need to have to repeat this again in the laboratory. But still, you know, I said I give you a year, but if you can finish it within 6 months, it should be okay. So I think the guy made it, you know, because I didn't want to so-called to punish this. It says that it was wrong in the beginning. I said, you know, so because the thesis should remember will be displayed at the library, isn't it? Yeah. So make sure that the thesis has been checked thoroughly, correctly, because your thesis I think now can be accessed from people all over the world. So that's why it has to be you know, correctly discussed. The methods being used are, you know, are proper, you know, things like that. I never failed any student before.
Yeah, okay, then, yeah. Prof, this is one question, maybe I think from Ernesta Pujazon. We're asking about will the overseas students face the hardest time during the Viva, was it rather than the local students?
No. It depends on the work that you have done. You know, we don't discriminate local or international students. You know.
Okay, Prof. This one will be the next question. What is your take on the supervisions that tend to choose the really expert,
fierce and tough examiners?
Yeah, test to their students and themselves.
I guess if the supervisor wants the students to be challenged, okay, I think it's okay. You remember I told about the story of my supervisor asked me whether I want a guy from Cambridge or Nottingham, you know, and then one of my colleague, he's from Greece. During the group meeting, he always talk about he's the best student, etc. So my supervisor gave him this examiner from Cambridge. So just to test him. So he was sweating all day because, but that was just actually kind of, well, it's not a joke. It's just that our supervisor actually wants to test him whether he's can handle the so-called, you know, pressure of getting examiner from Cambridge, who is the top organic chemist in the world, Steve Lee at that time. So I guess it depends on the supervisor, but I'm sure the supervisor will always want their students to pass the Viva. Okay, it doesn't matter if the student, if the supervisor recommends that you know, he wants to appoint somebody from a top university, you know, so that I think there are pros and cons. You know, the benefit would be that the examiner with you know, highly experienced and knowledgeable will enhance, you know, the research of the supervisors group. I think that is very important for the supervisor and also for the student as well, meaning that there are people out there perhaps are better than us, you know, in our particular area. So I think I tend to take it positively, you know, if the supervisor wants to appoint somebody who is tough, but tough in the sense that he or she will improve the work that has been conducted for the future work of the research investigation. Okay, Dr. Zia?
Yeah, Doctor. Prof, basically, Prof, there's one question. Basically, I would like to summarize. Yes, publish a paper for international at the international level journals in the with a high impact factor will be good. But how about a student publish not at a high impact factor, or say maybe a bit lower impact factor, or not even a Q1 papers during the Viva session? Will that or say give a different perspective during the Viva session, Prof?
Okay, good question. The thing is, as long as you send it to a good reference journal, it's fine. Be it Q1, Q2, or Q3. Q1, Q2, Q3 depends on the depth and level of the research being undertaken. Okay, if you are working on the so-called highly fundamental kind of work, so perhaps it'll be better for Q1. But like I said, it doesn't matter, as long as the work is sent to any journals that are being reviewed, not predatory, because any journals, as long as the process is being evaluated, I think it's fine. It's okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be Q1 or Q2. It can be Q3 or Q4, as long as it's a reference journal. Meaning that the work has been evaluated by somebody. Okay.
So it shouldn't not an issue, Prof.
No.
Publish with the high. Okay,
Yeah.
Prof.
It's just that
So,
if you publish in a Q1, you get a better mileage. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now I get it.
Yeah. Let's say you manage to publish one Q1 and one Q2 papers. Perhaps if you want to pursue your postdoctoral research later on in any universities in Malaysia or abroad, so that will help your credential, your CV, that you have done a good job during your PhD. That's it.
Okay, Prof. There is one question. I just summarized the question, Prof. So during the Viva sessions for a master student and also for a PhD candidate, what can we expect? What type of questions will be for both sessions? Will be have a different perspective or different view, or the question will be also the same, the toughness of the questions, Prof?
Between masters and PhD, you mean?
Yes, Prof. Master and PhD.
Okay. For masters, I guess it's not like there's a difference between masters and PhD, by the way.
Yes.
PhD basically you go for the depth of the investigation, the level of difficulty, So I guess the question might be similar kind of general question, things like that. But the level of difficulty might be different, from masters or PhD. But again, like I said, it depends on the examiners themselves. It's just that what would be the contribution even from your masters or PhD? I remember I checked one Viva. When was it? From Thesis, I think a long time ago. One student, masters, I think she managed to publish 2 papers. School of Mathematics, Science and Computer. And then she was offered a job, I think, from other universities.
Oh.
So meaning that the questions of masters and PhD might be similar. It's just that the level of or the depth of the question might be slightly different from the perspective of the examiners. Yeah.
Get it, Prof. Prof, basically there's one question again. I would like to summarize. If let's say, Prof, what caused a student during the Viva get a major correction?
Okay. I guess when the examiner has read the thesis, okay, they will make certain remarks on the report. Perhaps there are some fundamental flaws. For example, the analysis wasn't done correctly, and also a lot has to be done to improve the thesis. I guess that would be the major correction. And of course, there are some students who have to repeat some experiment as well. So there'll be a revival, perhaps. I do not know. It depends on the outcome after the Viva. You know, major, minor. Usually, major basically there's some you know, amendments, corrections they have to make, and usually it can't be done within 3 months or 6 months. You know.
I get
So
it.
it could be some major flaws during the writing. That's why I say the job of the student is basically to read the thesis again and again, make sure that you understand every line, every sentence that you have written. If you're not sure, then put a question mark and discuss it with your supervisor or your co-supervisor whether the statement is correct or not. See, because if you give an ambiguous kind of answer, that depends on the interpretation of the examiner. You know, so perhaps you know it's quite tough whether to give major, revival, you know, minor, things like that. Again, it depends on the contribution of the knowledge itself, the body of knowledge to the work. But like I said, I think majority of the examiners would like to help the students. You know, if you have done your work for the past 3 years, you know, and also you can getting so you got recommendation from your supervisor saying that this person has done you know, enough to fulfill the requirements of a PhD or masters, then I think it should be okay. Unless, like I said, unless if there are some major flaws, you know, that examiner has discovered. Perhaps I don't know. Perhaps some minor manipulation of the graph, for example. I don't know. I hope it won't happen, because remember that if you do research, you have to consider the ethics of doing research as well. You know, the data reporting. You know, make sure that you report what you have obtained. You know, do not manipulate the results. Okay, I remember there was one case whereby one student, I think he just he changed the points in the graph, but he didn't change it in the text. You know, so those are the things that students should be aware of what can happen if you manipulate the you know, the results or the data. So if if that happens, I guess the examiner you know, managed to detect it, then it's going to be a difficult, tough for the student. But again, I'm sure the examiner will find ways to, you know, to advise or to help the students that you know, what can be improved. To me, as long as it doesn't matter it's a major or minor correction, as long as you pass your Viva, I think you should be happy about it, you know. Okay.
Okay, Prof. This I just summarize another questions. So, Prof, what is your opinion? Is that good for a student to know the examiner, so they can prepare in advance what the field of that examiners? So they do some advanced research on the examiner. So will this help them during the real Viva sessions?
Okay. It's good to know about your examiner, but you can never consult or talk to the examiner before the Viva. It's wrong for students to make contact, you know, with the examiner. Okay, and of course, appointment of examiners basically it depends on the rules set up by you know, IPSIS and also at faculty level. One shouldn't appoint an examiner who is part of the team with the supervisor, you know, of the project, you know, or the examiner shouldn't be a collaborator with your supervisor, things like that. So we have to understand the rules of appointment of examiners. But if the examiner is someone that you do not know of, it's good to find out about his field of interest, perhaps his area of expertise. Perhaps once you know that, then I'm sure that examiner will focus on those kind of questions, during the Viva. Yeah, it's okay to do some background check on the examiner, especially
so I was
Prof? Especially if either some students have gone through with the examiner, then it's okay to get some input, from the student. Okay.
So basically, it is okay to know the examiner, but do not communicate with the examiner.
Yes.
Before the Viva sessions. That is strictly mentioned over there. Okay, Prof. Prof, there is one question from Noor Hayat.
Can't hear you,
in proceeding, not in journey. Prof, can you hear me?
I missed your
Prof?
last.
Oh. Okay, Prof. It is like asking about one of question from Noor Hayati. She's asking about the publishing paper in a proceeding, not in journal. Is that okay during the Viva session, or it will be an advantage for the PhD journey?
I guess I guess for a start, it's okay to publish in a proceeding, as long as the student knows how to write the paper correctly, properly, but it would be better. It would be better to publish in a journal. I'm not saying that it is not allowed, but it's just that if you write a paper in a journal, that will help you a lot during the Viva. Okay, I'm not saying that proceeding is not important. It's okay, because proceeding is basically it's a training ground, for students, to learn how to write properly. Because remember, the outcome of your PhD is basically to become an independent researcher. After that, you should be able to write a paper correct, properly, with less grammatical error, etc. Because most papers are in English, so you can send for services, but like I said, it would be better if we as a student we write our own paper, then we know the quality of or the standards by us. I think it's good that we learn from mistakes or the weakness that we have. Okay, so it's okay for a start to publish in a proceeding, but perhaps your ultimate goal is to try to get it published in a journal, because that will help your career later on, especially if you want to join the academic line or you want to join the any research organization, Okay, Hussein?
Definitely get it, Prof. Can you can hear me, Prof?
Yeah, boleh. Can.
Okay, Prof. There is one question from the audience. I just summarize. Yes, when we are writing our thesis, we will quote a lot, put a reference journals and everything. Is that really important for the student to know the journal that been quoted in detail? During the Viva sessions, will the examiner ask about the quoted journal as well, Prof?
I guess it depends if you refer to any particular journal and it happens that the examiner itself knows about that paper. Then he might ask that. I guess I don't have any specific answer for that. It's just that sometimes the examiner will pick anything from your thesis, Sometimes he will pick the, for example, why the melting point is not correctly reported, why the range is too high, things like that, why the readings of that, why did you refer to this particular journal, perhaps this journal is no longer, relevant, things like that. I guess it depends on so-called what the examiner wants to pick up, you know, when he or she read the thesis, you know. I guess that will be my answer. Yeah. Sometimes
Okay,
they will refer to the journals that you always quote in your thesis, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So it will be advisable to, if let's say it is a physical examination during the Viva, bring all the journal being quoted. That's a backup, maybe, Prof.
Yeah.
Okay, Prof. Maybe we can proceed with one more this question. Arina will like to ask a question. Since now we are conducting online Viva, can you give some tips on how to conduct a professional's online Viva presentation? I know. Okay.
I guess when you want to prepare your slides for presentation, Viva, I guess for PhD you have 15 minutes, right? 20 minutes, sorry, right? 20 minutes, right? Betul sih? Dr. Suhaili?
Pardon, Prof?
Oh, okay. Can you
Prof,
hear me?
Can you hear me? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
I can hear you, Prof.
Okay. So for PhD presentation is about 20 minutes, right? Okay.
Yes,
so basically, a student has to prepare maybe, I don't know, 1 to 15 slides, perhaps. You know, not too many, because too many slides sometimes you just showing the data itself is, I guess it should be the summary of the findings is very important when you want to prepare your slides, you know. Introduction, perhaps not too much, you know, perhaps 1 or 2 slides. I think the bulk of your presentation should be focused on your results and discussion and your findings, you know. I think that focus on that first. Imagine you have 15 or 15, perhaps 20 slides is okay, 1 slides per minute. But like I said, don't make it too wordy, you know. I think slides should be just list the points or the advantages. Let's say, for example, you use these methods. What are the advantages, disadvantages, you know, your conclusion, your findings, you know. I mean, don't discuss too much on the data that you have acquired, you know. Perhaps the summary of the data or the so-called the inference from that, what can you summarize, what can you prove? I guess that be the best way when it comes to presenting your slide, you know, PowerPoint during online, because like I say, online Viva is going to be tough, you know. Sometimes the other side couldn't hear it clearly, you know, because of some, you know, disconnection or things like that, you know? So that's why perhaps you should do a mock Viva with your supervisor first, you know,
Yeah.
and of course with your peers, your fellow students, and perhaps they can comment or perhaps they can give suggestions where to improve, you know. I guess that would be my advice, you know, when you want to prepare your slides, you know, during the Viva online. I know it's tough, especially for sciences, but
yes,
but
I agree with you.
Yeah, but we have to face the reality, you know. So hope this pandemic will go away soon. Okay.
Yeah, inshallah, Prof. So I noticed a lot of similar questions is appear in our this one been asked. I will just skip the one that similar question, Prof. So they might one question from the floor. They ask about what do you, in your opinion, Prof? If a student want to be a good and successful, even the supervisor is not really helpful. I think definitely it's the case with the supervisor. How you are going to advise this, Prof?
You mean the student is better than supervisor?
Maybe they have a conflict between.
See, remember my slides, the one I put a synergy between supervisor, student, and the project, right? Remember that slide in the beginning? So I guess
yes, Prof. I remember.
If the work, if the student wants to be successful, I mentioned that there must be a synergy. Let's say the project is good, the students is good, but perhaps the supervisor is, well, not so good. It's just that the student care less about the work. Then perhaps you have to address that in the beginning of study. That is the job of Thesis and also the postgraduate committee at the faculty level, to thresh out these initial issues, because before you join your supervisor or any research group, you have to check the track record of your supervisor. I think that is important for the student, because look, you're going to spend 3 or 4 years with your supervisor, so that's why you need to have a good rapport, a good learning experience. Usually, a supervisor can guide, or be able to train the students to become better than himself. I remember when I did my PhD, we always have a group meeting with our supervisor. The supervisor will always say that, look, you guys are young, when you finish your PhD and you go back to your respective country, at that time there were so many people from different countries, say, you all should aim to be better than me. That's what my supervisor said. Of course, he's better than us, we know that. It's just that he put the pressure on us so that we become a better person. So I guess the question of whether the student learn more than the supervisor, I guess it can happen if basically you spend 4 years working in that particular area and perhaps your supervisor is busy doing other things, But like I said, you still have to respect your supervisor, because I'm sure that in the beginning your supervisor has guided you well, and then those are the so-called learning experience I mentioned earlier, that as a student, undergrad or postgraduate students, the reason why you join that particular university is to get that learning experience, So perhaps you can learn from your supervisor and your supervisor can learn from you as well. That's why I mentioned earlier that even during the Viva, sometimes the examiners will learn from the students, because we know that the students are doing the experiment themselves, They are the ones who work day and night in the laboratory. So they know a lot more, but perhaps there are things that they might not have the answer. But this is where the role of supervisor and co-supervisor is important. Perhaps there are some missing links in the research itself. Okay, so that's why make sure that once you are assigned a supervisor, build a good rapport with him or her, because if you have a good synergy with your supervisor, I'm sure you're gonna progress well. I'm sure a lot of obstacles or hurdles can be reduced in your journey towards your PhD degree. Okay, that's it.
Very good, Prof. Yeah, actually, a lot of question is still coming in, but I think we actually have a limited times of these sessions. So, Prof, let me wrap up for the session as well to make conclusions, because we are running out of time as well. And Prof, thank you so much for today's sharing session. I really enjoy. I'm sure we get a lot of input from your presentation. definitely. I think a lot of how we prepare for our Viva. I'm sure, Prof, and also for information, I noticed your audience are keep on until at the moment they are around 500. That is a very big achievement from our side, and look at. So, Prof, thank you for this sharing session. I'm really happy to meet you in these sessions, even though through the online, not physically, and science as a dean, as a my lecturer, and also in the IPSIS as well. I know you. So thank you for the very, very wonderful sharing session, Prof. And I was saying, again, I hope that more success and you will at once in your career in the future coming in. So from IPSIS side, we like to thank for the session and for your time, even though you have a very busy, tight schedule, but you managed to squeeze in some time for us. We really appreciate from IPSIS side. So anything Prof would like to add on before we really end the session?
Okay, last words from me. So first of all, I want to thank Dr. Hussein, Dr. Suhaili, for inviting me this morning so that I can share some of my experience, not that much experience, a little bit of experience with the students. So I wish all the students in UiTM, and also outside UiTM, if there are any, I wish you all the best, because I'm sure that this journey of postgraduate education is very interesting and it's very challenging, to all of you. I think it happens to me, to Dr. Hussein, Dr. Suhaili, what it takes to to get a PhD. It's challenging, but I'm sure at the end of the day, you will be rewarded, for the from the time that you have spent, in the lab, in the computer, at home, So I just pray and hope that this pandemic will go away, and then hopefully you can have a face-to-face Viva, and then perhaps you become a better person, and in terms of the way you reason, the way you think, the way you speak, the way you communicate, the way you argue, from your this so-called journey of postgraduate education, especially PhD education. It's a tough one, I know, but like I said, inshallah, it will help you in the future, not just for you, but also for your family and your parents. I'm sure they'll be proud of you. Itu aja my last words from me, Dr. Hussein.
Yes, Prof. I'm sure I will meet you in through all the. We are in the UiTM. Definitely, I'm going to meet you, and also thanks for Dr. Swahili. We can get a one group photo before we really end, Dr. Swahili. Bukan senang berjumpa rektor ni.
Yes, Dr. Hussein, but you need Dr. Hussein, may I request you to share your screen so that we can take a group photo? Would you be able to share your screen again?
Okay, Doctor. Doctor?
Sure.
Okay, can you see this, Doctor?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so let's snap a picture. Prof, give your best pose to us.
Okay.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Dr. Sally also taking the picture?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe one more round. Because okay.
Yeah, sure.
3, 2, 1.
Okay.
From my side. So before, why not we end our session with the Tasbih Kifara and Surah Al-As. Thank you so much again, Prof. See you very soon. Yes. Thank you very much, Prof. and Dr. Suhaili. Thank you.
Thank you, Suhaili. Thank you, Bye bye. Assalamualaikum.
Yeah. Bye. Salam.
Bye.